Unbelievable. According to Stephen A. Smith, the Knicks might have struck gold with their newest addition, Yabusele. Stephen A. said it loud and clear on his show. This man has been balling all off-season in Eurobasket, and now he just exploded with a career-high performance. Smith pointed out that this is exactly the kind of upside New York needs off the bench. In his words, the Knicks might have gotten themselves a future star, and I'm not exaggerating. Let's break it down. Stephen A. explained that he already loved the Yabusele signing from a financial and roster-building perspective, filling a need at the right price. But he emphasized that every single time Yabusele steps on the court, he shows more versatility, more scoring touch, and more presence than people expected. And after this latest performance, Stephen A. said he's absolutely convinced Yabusele has the potential to be a difference-maker in New York. We're talking about a monster stat line. As reported by Ian Begley and others, Yabusele dropped 36 points, grabbed 6 rebounds, 5 of them offensive, added 2 assists, 2 blocks, shot 12 for 20 from the field, and an incredible 6 for 12 from 3. Stephen A. highlighted that number in particular. 6 made 3. For a player of his size and role, he called it flat-out insane. But here's where Stephen A. really drove it home. Yabusele is not expected to be the guy dropping 36 every night in Madison Square Garden. That's not his role, yet the fact that he can put up that type of performance in international play shows he has a ceiling much higher than most backups. As Smith put it, you bring that kind of confidence and shooting ability into the Garden, the Knicks become a completely different team. He even went as far as to compare the stat line to the type of numbers we usually only see from Luka Doncic or Nikola Jokic at Eurobasket. You don't expect Yabusele to be in that conversation, Stephen A. said, but here he is, showing flashes that make you stop and think, this brother might actually be a real problem in the NBA. Yes, it's Eurobasket. Yes, the level of competition is different. Stephen A. acknowledged that, but he doubled down that what matters most is the skill set translating, the spacing, the shooting, the ability to defend and rebound while also stretching the floor. That's something New York has lacked consistently in their second unit, and in his view, Yabusele could be the exact piece that strengthens the Knicks' depth for a deep playoff push. Stephen A. wrapped it up by saying, I don't care if it's Eurobasket, the Garden, or the playoffs. If a player can shoot like that, if he can hit 6 threes on any stage, you have to pay attention. The Knicks might have just gotten themselves one of the biggest steals of the offseason. Stephen A. Smith didn't stop there. He broke it down even further, pointing out the ripple effect Yabusele brings when he's left open. As Stephen A. explained, you cannot leave this man open. If you do, it's automatic. He's hitting that shot. And now you're running back on defense wondering what just happened. That kind of threat, Stephen A. stressed, completely changes the way defenses are forced to play New York. Here's why. Once Yabusele knocks down 2 wide-open threes from the corner, defenders won't be so quick to ignore him anymore. That's when the game shifts. Now, you've got an extra defender sliding out to cover him, sometimes even 2. And that opens up the floor for the Knicks' stars. Whether it's Jalen Brunson breaking down the defense or Karl Anthony Towns working in the paint, having a shooter like Yabusele spreads the floor in ways New York didn't have last season. Stephen A. was adamant. That's how role players earn their value. They don't just score, they create opportunities for everyone else. And it's not just about the shooting. Stephen A. also emphasized that if Yabusele can bring the same defensive energy, blocking shots, grabbing offensive rebound, making hustle play, then the Knicks bench won't just be serviceable, it'll be one of the most dangerous in the NBA. Last year, Stephen A. reminded everyone this team had one of the weakest benches in the league, especially when it came to scoring. That will not be the case this year. Between Jordan Clarkson providing instant offense and Yabusele showing he can score in bunches, the second unit has been transformed into a real weapon. Stephen A. even brought up an intriguing point from coach Mike Brown. Early in training, Brown suggested Yabusele could slide into the small forward spot depending on matchups. And Stephen A. agreed with the logic. If you can shoot the way this brother can, If you can rebound and protect the rim, then yes, you can absolutely be plugged in at the three. It gives New York flexibility, it gives them option, and it gives Mike Brown exactly what he's always wanted, the ability to play the matchups. That versatility, according to Stephen A., is exactly what separates this Knicks team from the ones fans have been used to for years. He explained that in the past, the excitement in New York always seemed to begin and end with the starting five. Fans would look at the roster and say, if the starters play great, we've got a shot. But the moment they looked down the bench, there wasn't much to be thrilled about. The second unit often left more questions than answered, and when those players were called on in big moments, the production simply wasn't there. This season, Stephen A. stressed that narrative has flipped completely. For the first time in a long time, Knicks fans can be genuinely excited about the entire roster from top to bottom. It's not just about Brunson, Towns, or Randall carrying the load anymore. Now you have legitimate scoring threats, defenders, and versatile playmakers coming off the bench. He said this balance between starters and reserves is exactly what championship-level teams are built on. You need depth, you need flexibility, and you need the ability to adapt to different matchups across an 82-game season and into the playoffs. And under Mike Brown's leadership, Stephen A. argued, those advantages will only grow. Brown has already made it clear that he intends to approach the season with an open mind toward rotation, not just sticking to rigid lineup, but instead adjusting based on matchups, game flow, and opponent weaknesses. Stephen A. insisted that Knicks fans haven't seen this type of creativity in years, and it could end up being the single biggest difference maker for New York. With a bench this strong, Brown now has the freedom to experiment, to stagger stars with role players, and to build combinations that maximize strengths while hiding weaknesses. But Stephen A. didn't stop at the court. He made sure to credit the work behind the scenes as well. Most importantly, he praised Leon Rose and the Knicks front office for pulling this off. He reminded fans that New York wasn't sitting on unlimited cap space this summer. In fact, the opposite was true. Their flexibility was tight, their options were narrow, and most experts didn't think the Knicks could do much at all in free agency. And yet, Rose and his team found a way. They identified value, they targeted the right players, and they secured impact signings without overextending themselves financially. Stephen A. called the Yabusele deal one of those rare moves people shrug off at first. But later, when it matters most, you look back and realize just how important it was. In his eyes, this wasn't just about filling a roster spot. It was about adding a player who perfectly fits the needs of the team, at the right price, and at the right time. He said that's the mark of a front office that understands the bigger picture. To Stephen A., this is exactly what separates a good front office from a great one. A good front office makes obvious moves with clear resources. A great front office, however, finds ways to maximize every dollar, every roster spot, and every opportunity, even when their options appear limited. Leon Rose and his staff, in Stephen A.'s words, proved they belong in that latter category. And for Knicks fans, that should be just as exciting as anything happening on the floor. But Stephen A. also left fans with a little teaser. He reminded everyone that New York still has one roster spot left to fill, and he insisted that a move is coming. Don't get it twisted, he said. The Knicks aren't done yet. They've got one more piece to add, and when that move drops, we'll really know what this team is going to look like. To wrap it up, Stephen A. circled back to the main point. Yabusele is not just a throw-in or a filler signing. He's a player who can actually swing games off the bench, a player who creates spacing, contributes on defense, and makes life easier for stars like Brunson and Towns. This brother can flat-out play, Stephen A. declared. And if he keeps this up when the season starts, the Knicks won't just have a good bench, they'll have one of the best in the league.